Hello, hello. You know what time it is? Get into it. Get into it. Get into it! As that one woman goes, period! Hi, y'all. I know it's been a minute since I've done story time. I've been rather busy considering I now have a second job. Working mostly in the evenings, 3 nights a week. So, I apologize for my absence. But I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's day is going really well. Couple things. Parents, for the families that are watching this, or I should say will eventually watch this, for those who are currently working right now, doing their own thing. It just dawned on me, and I realized this last night a little bit, but does anybody remember a Nickelodeon TV show called As Told by Ginger? Oh, by the way, one of my favorite cups. Artemis, yeah, Sailor Moon. From one of my favorite Sailor Guardians, Sailor Venus, the leader of the Sailor Guardians. Woohoo! Or the Inner Senshi, as they are called. What I just realized last night, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but does anybody remember a show called As Told by Ginger? Like, it came out in 2001, come to find out. It came out in 2001 and went on for 3 seasons. It was a really, really good show. And honestly, if you remember this show, if you know. If you remember this show, it is available on Paramount Plus for viewership. I really wish they would have released it on Blu-ray or at least a digital release or something, because it's its 20th anniversary this year. And let me tell you something. That was one of the shows, besides other shows that I watched as a teenager and a preteen, that really brought a lot of things into focus about what it means to be a teen and what it means to grow up with angst and anxiety and heartbreak and puberty and hormones and just all the ups and downs of what it means to grow up and to live life with so many social obstacles that really at this point don't really faze you as much. I mean, as most of us are adults now, since that show has come out, I think we can all unanimously agree that our youth and the things that we went through in our youth have helped shaped us who we are today. And I really love that show. I've been rewatching. I'm almost done with season 1. I'm probably going to breeze through season 2 tonight. There are some episodes on that series that really touch on a lot of relatable subject matter. I'm not going to spoil it. But if you ever get a chance, if you have Paramount Plus, if you want a really great show for kids, especially for preteens and teenagers, please, 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 go look up As Told by Ginger on Paramount Plus. That's not a plug. That was just literally an observation I made. I was like, wow, this series was really, really good, and I'm really sad that it does not get as much fanfare as I would like. Especially a really well written Nickelodeon series. It was really good. I don't know, the 90s and the early 2000s, we were very blessed with really awesome TV shows that talked about so much relatable subject matter, so much current event subject matter that you didn't think was possible, and it's really nice to see. Also, if you remember As Told by Ginger, please comment below about either your favorite episodes or your favorite moments. By the way, spoiler alert, just gonna say that for those, foreshadowing the fact that some people may spoil some aspects of the show with their comments. So, spoiler alert. If you remember the show, comment below what your favorite moments from the show were. I mean, two particular episodes is the Fake Up episode where Dodie, Ginger, and Macy make their own makeup for school picture day, even though Ginger's mom told her not to use makeup. Then the other episode that was really distinctive in my mind was Love with a Proper Transfer Student, and it's basically Ginger and Dodie are crushing on this new transfer student named Joaquin Cortez, and he gets into the school musical, and Ginger gets the lead, and they get to work closely together, and come to find out Dodie and Ginger are crushing on the same guy. It's a really good episode. There are other specific episodes in the 3 seasons that I really do enjoy, but if I tell you, it would spoil a great deal of the beauty of the series. Like, if you know, you know. If you've seen the show from start to finish when it was on the air and were able to see that final episode and see the beautiful twist at the end, comment below. Like, I want to hear people's thoughts because I really love that show. That, Degrassi, pretty much anything on the Toonami lineup on Cartoon Network. Of course, Avatar, Rugrats, Rocko's Modern Life, Wild Thornberrys, Rocket Power, Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold has some episodes that will hit you right here, like on the verge of tears. Like that. Hey Arnold is a great show. It's a great show. And I'm glad, because I'm pretty sure they brought the series back in 2019 for like this big 2-part movie event called Hey Arnold, The Jungle or something like that, where like Arnold goes off to find his parents. But that's another conversation for another day. We're here for story time. And hi, Nomad, how are you? And thank you for commenting. Yes, I really loved As Told by Ginger. One, because I don't feel like... Hold on, because I don't own the music in the background. It is going ham biscuits over here. Okay. What I will say is this. One of the 2 reasons why I like the show is because it had a lot of characters of color, black and brown characters that were main characters. They were not background characters. They actually had lines and motivations that moved the plot of the series. And it was really, really cool to see. And they were very non-stereotypical depictions, and it was super cool. Another aspect I really like, which this may sound odd coming from me, considering I'm not technically a redhead, I'm glad that they chose a ginger for the role. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's not enough positive representations of red-haired characters in fiction, and there's nothing wrong with there being an abundance. You know what I mean? We got Ariel from Disney's Little Mermaid. We have Wally West, aka The Flash, in DC Comics. We have Pippi Longstockings. We have Anne of Green Gables. We have a bunch of other different characters. But yeah, I just feel like there's not enough. And to see that happen on an animated TV series and it get so much love when it was on was really nice. Ooh, my elderberry tea is delish. But without further ado, I will begin story time. And like I said, you do not have to watch these when they come up. You're more than welcome to watch them when you have free time. I also read Storytime on Instagram, so if you want to catch up on the episodes on that, they're all posted on my Instagram page. And I do post those episodes on the YouTube channel. If you have not done so, please, 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 go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. I need at least 1,000 subscribers to go live on YouTube so I can have it on one platform, so I'm not having to split between 2 and then uploading those videos 24 hours later. Because if I do it live on there, it'll just automatically come up and I'll put in the title and all that. But without further ado, we will continue our journey in the part 2 of Redwall, and we are starting on chapter 13. Matthias was excused from duties at the gatehouse fortifications. The castle had agreed that both he and Methuselah, plus any creature that chose to help them, were to be left to their own devices. The majority of the Redwall mice thought that Matthias was acting a little oddly, but the young mouse knew exactly what he was about. He strolled slowly through the abbey grounds. Behind him hopped Warbeak on a lead, with a collar about her neck. On the sparrow's uninjured leg, Matthias had tied a brick. Not a very big brick, but one large enough to stop the bird getting airborne or trying any sneaky attacks upon its captor. Thoroughly disgruntled, the sparrow hopped along like a feathered convict with a ball and a chain, forced to follow the young mouse wherever he chose to wander. At first, Warbeak had raved and threatened. Death was too good for Matthias. Warbeak was going to kill him twice, then cut him up and drop him from the top of a high tree for the worms to feed upon. Matthias had merely tugged the lead sharply and quickened his pace. When the savage young sparrow showed signs of good behavior, Matthias would feed her morsels of candied chestnut. The treatment was working. Outside the gatehouse, Matthias rested. He fed the sparrow some more of the candied nut. "There now, you good bird. Well done," he said approvingly. Warbeak scowled fiercely, but she munched the nut readily. Methuselah popped his head out briefly and beckoned.
"Come to the study, Matthias. Oh, and bring that little horror too."
In the cluttered study, the old mouse produced a yellow volume.
"Old friend Sister Germain's translation of the original Redwall Abbey blueprints. I think I found what we are looking for in the main diagram. See?"
Matthias studied the blueprint carefully. "Brilliant!" he exclaimed. "You've done it again, my friend. A route to the Abbey roof from the inside." Methuselah breathed upon his glasses, polishing them on his fur.
"Really, it's thanks to Sister Germain for keeping such fastidious records, young mouse. Now here's where you'll start."
An hour later, Matthias left the gatehouse with Warbeak bobbing behind. As they went, the young mouse muttered to himself, "I'll need 5 or 6 strong climbing ropes, some spikes, oh, and a hammer. Must have a hammer. Now let's see, a good haversack to carry it all, enough food and drink, and some candied chestnuts for you, my friend." Warbeak uttered a stream of curses as she stumbled on the brick. Matthias waited as she picked herself up. "Such language for a young sparrow." Constance and Ambrose Spike watched the odd pair pass by. The badger tapped the side of her head with a paw. "That's in the belfry." "Or sparrows," giggled the hedgehog. Basil Staghair superintended the willing creatures who carried logs and filling to store up the gatehouse entrance. The hare had brought in a touch of military efficiency to bear upon the exercise. He had formed the volunteers into a living chain which could constantly pass the defense materials along. Basil brought his good-natured authority into play. "You there! Forth for the end, chappie! Liven your ideas up, laddie-buck! That's the 3rd time you've spilled a basket of soil! Here, let me show you how." The timid mice smiled amongst themselves. The bustling hare was quite a kindly creature, really. All bark and no bite at all. He shared the tasks with them, working as hard as anyone. No, brother, what's your name? You pass logs along like this. Look, you go and get a bite to eat. Come on, the rest of you beautiful dreamers, stir your stumps or I'll have your whiskers for bootlaces. The helpers laughed and did the best they could. Now and again there would be barely stifled giggles as they watched the performance of Silent Sam. He stood behind Basil, pantomiming the hare's every movement, puffing up his tiny chest and strutting about importantly. In the Abbey kitchens, Cornflower carefully wrapped Matthias's food in fresh dock leaves. Matthias sidled up, helping himself to a candied chestnut. Cornflower wrapped his paw with a wooden ladle. "Those nuts are for the poor little sparrow. Leave them alone, you great glutton," she scolded. Matthias snorted indignantly. "Poor little sparrow, my eye! Listen, miss, if I'll let that young hussy off our lead for 5 minutes, we'll all be murdered in our beds." The young field mouse helped Matthias with the haversack straps. She tried not to let her concern for him show. "Matthias, I know you won't tell me where you're going, but wherever it is, please take care of yourself." Matthias adjusted the dagger in the black sword belt. He stood framed in the doorway, smiling confidently. "Don't worry, Cornflower. I fully intend to take care of myself, for the safety of Redwall Abbey, and for you." A moment later, he was gone. Halfway along the top dormitory passage, Matthias halted. A stepladder was set up underneath a wooden loft door in the ceiling. Matthias came along, leading Warbeak. The sparrow was still wearing the collar, lead, and brick shackle. Matthias looked up to the door. "So that's where we're going, eh?" The old gatehouse keeper gave him a neatly drawn map.
"You'll find it all marked down there, Matthias. That door leads to the loft. Turn to your right and keep walking until you touch the wall. To your right you will find a gap in the wall. On the other side of that gap you will come out about halfway up the wall of Great Hall. It is a ledge between the arches of the sandstone columns. From there you must climb up to a higher row of ledges alongside the stained glass windows. Scale the rib in the center of the first window to the left. You will find yourself on a wooden ridge that runs along parallel to the curve of the roof. Further along that ridge there is another wooden loft door. I'm sorry, but I cannot locate it exactly. You must find it yourself when you do go through it, and you shall be directly underneath the top roof attic. From there you are on your own. I cannot help you, Matthias.
The ancient mouse placed his paws on his young friend's shoulders. His voice trembled as he bade goodbye.
Good fortune go with you, Matthias. I wish that I were young and agile once again so that I could accompany you.
Excuse me. Methuselah embraced the young mouse as if he were his own son. And as Matthias ascended the ladder, the old mouse called out final instructions to him.
If the sparrow causes you trouble, don't hesitate to kick her off into thin air. She'll come down as fast as the brick she's tied to.
Warbeak scowled, but made no comment. She knew Methuselah spoke the truth. The brick was like an anchor against her leg. Matthias gave the loft door a strong shove upwards and slid it to one side. He covered his eyes and coughed as the dust of ages poured down upon his head. Tugging the sparrow behind him, he climbed up the loft. It was very dark and gloomy. Matthias peered over to his right. Faintly he could make out a strip of wan, grayish light filtering in.
He may be gap and wall like old mouse say about.
Warbeak chimed. Hey, keep a civil tongue in your head, Sparrow. That's my friend you're talking about, gritted Matthias as he strode off to the right, tugging the lead. His concentration broken, he stepped awkwardly upon a joust and tripped heavily into the thick dust. Warbeak was upon the young mouse in a flash. The sparrow scratched hard at Matthias's neck and pecked at the back of his head, forcing it down to the floor. Matthias felt the suffocating dust clog his mouth as he struggled to turn his body over. Warbeak pecked and scratched frantically, her target obscured by the bulky haversack. Reaching up behind himself, the mouse felt around till he grasped the sparrow's leg. Giving it a hard pull, he rolled over, plucking out his dagger in the same moment. Matthias lay across Warbeak's, pinning her to the floor, the point of his dagger pricking the sparrow's throat. "Listen, Warbeak," Matthias panted. "Once more. Move like that, and it'll be your last. Do you hear me?" Both creatures lay still a while, their faces close together, breathing heavily. The sparrow was still defiant.
I get chance. Warbeak killing mouse. Sparrow not give up, you see.
Matthias sprang to his feet, tugging the lead viciously. He dragged the sparrow, stumbling and tripping to the crack of light. Swinging the bird forwards, Matthias pushed her through the narrow aperture, squeezing through after her with great difficulty. They were on the first ledge, high above Great Hall. Without warning, Matthias shoved Warbeak roughly off the edge. The startled sparrow shot downwards and stopped with a jerk. Only thick neck feathers saved her from strangulation. Matthias held the lead tightly with both paws, straining backwards as the sparrow dangled and fluttered over Great Hall. "Now you promise to behave yourself, or down you go, my friend!" Matthias shouted. With her heart hammering at the surprise attack and her predicament, Warbeak realized that she was completely at the mercy of her captor. Burdened with the brick, she had no chance of flying, as she hung flapping uselessly. Matthias called down, "Make up your mind! My paws are getting tired! This lead's beginning to slip!" A forlorn little voice answered, "Warbeak not want to die. Mouse win. Pull sparrow up. Be good. Give word." Bracing himself against the stone arch, Matthias pulled the sparrow back to safety. Together they sat on the ledge, sharing a canteen of water, both weary and dusty. Matthias was still wary of his prisoner. "How good is the word of a sparrow?" he asked. Warbeak puffed out her chest.
"Sparrow word always good. Warbeak no say lie. Me swear by mother's egg. That big swear."
Matthias reflected they used deliberate measures to secure a promise, but with justification. He was being uncompromising with himself as well as his captive. No more could he afford to be the silly little novice that bumbled about the abbey before the start of the present troubles. He was maturing, learning the warrior's way. This mission was vital. Redwall depended upon him, just as it had once depended upon Martin the warrior. With an odd feeling, Matthias realized that he and Warbeak were now on first-name terms. Clooney might be making promotions. There were now 3 rat officers on the list of the dead. First it had been Skullface, killed beneath the wheels of the cart. Next to go was Raggier. There was talk of a serpent. He was never seen again. Now Redtooth, Clooney's first officer, was missing, presumed dead. Most of Clooney's army had an eye to promotion. Not only for prestige, there were extra shares of loot to be considered. Kilconey the ferret extolled the virtues of his weaseled friend, Scrag, who had met his death at the foot of the big elm tree.
Aye, let me tell you, buckos.
Scrag, now there was a weasel with a head on his shoulders. Officer material he was, definitely. Do you know, I still can't figure out how smart a boyo like that could let himself be killed in a fall from some old tree. Cheese thief sneered.
Clumsiness, I'd say. I was there and saw it all. Besides, Clooney wouldn't have a weasel officer ordering rats about.
And why not? Challenged the ferret. I'll wager the chief could promise and promote any creature that showed good sense and a fighting spirit. Will you look at me now? I'm a fine figure of a ferret. Why, if I was the chief, I'd make me a captain just like that. The ferret snapped his claws. Cheese thief spat on the ground in contempt of Kilconey. Knowing there was not much chance of promotion for himself, he was only rated as a minor sort of officer. If it came to a decision, Darklaw was the natural choice. Fangburn had fallen from favor since the incident with Seela and Redtooth. Nevertheless, the weasels and their brethren the stoats and ferrets argued their case hotly. Why shouldn't others be promoted? What was so superior about rats? Mangefur, Scumnose, and Frogblood considered rats to be the elite of Clooney's horde. Darklaw sided with them while trying to placate the others, attempting to keep a foot in either camp. Should it come to a vote, one never knew. What chance there was of anything democratic being allowed by Clooney the Scourge, who lay on the bed with his eye closed, ignoring the whispered bickering and backbiting around him. He would promote only when he was good and ready. Meanwhile, just let any of his horde dare to press the issue. Seela and her son skulked in a corner. They felt trapped. Nobody had spoken to them since the demise of Redtooth. It was as if they were being blamed. Suddenly, Clooney called over to Seela.
Hey, Fox! Take that brat of yours outside for a bit. Get some fresh air, and remember no wandering off. Send Darklaw in here to me, and that Gabby ferret, what's-his-name, Kilconey.
The foxes hastened to do as they were told, glad to be out of their oppressive atmosphere of the sick room. Darklaw and the ferret came marching in, not knowing whether to be confident or apprehensive. You never knew with Clooney. They both saluted. Chief? Clooney got out of bed. He paced back and forth, testing his legs. Each day they were a bit stronger. He walked past the pair and spoke without turning to face them.
Who knows anything about tunneling?
Kilconey stepped smartly forward.
Ah, the tunnels, Your Honor. You're talking to the very creature.
Clooney rested upon his standard.
You?
Yes, but myself, sir, the ferret wheedled. And don't I know some grand old animals that could help? Ferrets like me, stoats and weasels, why sure we're as good as any mole when it comes to tunnelling. So we are, shoring and banking, sinking shafts and gullies.
Clooney banged the standard against the floor.
Enough! Where are these others that you mentioned?
Kilconey cocked a claw over her shoulder.
Sure, they're all outside, your worship. Shall I go and fetch them?
Go, and don't be all day about it,
Clooney replied. Kilconey threw a fancy salute and departed. Clooney pulled Darklaw close to him. He spoke confidently.
Don't you know anything about tunnels, Darklaw?
The rat shook his head unhappily. Clooney put his claw around Darklaw's shoulder.
Well, never mind. I've got other work for you. We can't let ferrets, stoats, and weasels take all the glory, can we? You've always been a good, solid rat. Darklaw, you help me and I'll see that you get a rich reward when the time comes.
Darklaw nodded obediently. Some time later, Clooney was deep in conference with Kilconey and his squad. It was interrupted by a scuffle and commotion from outside. Cheese Thief strode in, dragging Chickenhound and prodding Seela ahead of him with a spear.
What's going on here?
Clooney demanded. Cheese Thief smirked triumphantly. It's these two foxes, Chief. I caught them with their ears against the door. They were listening in. He skillfully tripped Seela and Chickenhound with the spear butt. They fell in a heap at Clooney's feet, where they lay shivering and protesting their innocence.
Not us, sir. We weren't eavesdropping.
We were just leaning there for a rest.
We're only simple healers. Clooney nodded understandingly. I see. You just wanted to help with the digging, is that it? Eager to please and panic-stricken, Chicken Hal blurted out, Yes, that's right, sir. Give us a chance and we'll tunnel with the best of them. Seela groaned despairingly as Clooney kicked her son viciously. Who said anything about digging, Fox? I only mentioned... Who said anything about tunneling? I only mentioned digging! Seela attempted to save the situation.
Oh, please, sir. Take no notice of the young fool. All he meant was that when you said dig...
A whack from the banner staff silenced Seela. Clooney's voice was icy with condemnation. Traitors! All that he meant was that you slipped me out when you copied my plans for an attack with a battering ram. So now you know that I intend to tunnel into Redwall. Seela licked dry lips. She stared pleadingly at the warlord. There were no mercy in the single eye. You knew too much, Vixen. You and your son played a dangerous game. Nobody outsmarts Clooney. I've won and you've now both lost. The foxes clasped their claws. They knelt, whimpering pitifully. Clooney stood over them, enjoying his power as judge. He signaled to Cheese Thief and Darklaw. Take these miserable turncoats out of my sight. You know what to do. Shrieking and screaming for mercy, the foxes were dragged away. Clooney turned back to the ferrets, weasels, and stoats. Now, about this tunnel. Chapter 14. Matthias and Warbeak had made slow progress. They climbed up to the arches and stained glass windows with long and arduous. Matthias had relieved the sparrow of her brick hobble, pinning her wings, making the going easier. At intervals, the young mouse drove spikes into the joints of the stone. He was careful not to look down. It was a terrifying drop. Impressive distance down to the abbey floor. Only once did he risk a quick glance, not certain if the dark spot in the ground might be Methuselah watching them. There was real peril negotiating the curve at the top of the arch. Hanging tightly to the spikes he had fixed, Matthias leaned down dangerously. There was nothing but determination and the strength in his paws to stop him from plunging down to a frightening death. Gritting his teeth, he made it to the apex of the arch. He reached over the stone ledge which divided the arch into the stained glass windows above, and taking a firm grip, propelled himself upwards and sideways. His legs landed further along the edge, with his cheek resting on the stone. He gave one last heave, and rolled on to the safety of the ledge. Sitting up, Matthias knotted two ropes together. He lowered them to Warbeak, who was waiting below at the base of the arch. The sparrow looped the rope about herself. As she climbed, she aided Matthias by finding claw holes and making use of the spikes. Leaning back against the stained glass windows, they ate lunch. Warbeak gave a twittering laugh.
Matthias, all red mouse.
Ha! You should talk, Warbeak, Matthias replied. Look at yourself. You're all blue all over. The bizarre effect was created by sunlight shining through the stained glass. As they ate, Warbeak would dodge her head from side to side, changing color as she did so.
Look it! Now me green, blue again, now red like a Matthias mouse.
If you don't sit still, you'll be white with fright, because you'll fall, Matthias warned. When they were sufficiently recovered to start again, Matthias tried the sandstone center rib of the window. It was carved into a profusion of curlicues and niches which made the climb considerably easier. Soon they reached the wood ridge at the bottom of the wolf curvature. It was perilously narrow. Together they edged along it, their backs bent unsafely forward with the curve of the ceiling behind. Neither of them was aware of the inquisitive beak face of a sparrow who watched them from the corner of a stained glass window. It noted the would-be intruders, then flew off. Matthias drew his dagger. He struck it to the wooden ceiling to steady himself as they halted to look for the next loft door. I can see it, said Matthias. There, along to your left. You'll have to lead, Warbeak. Gingerly, the sparrow slid her claws along the small, smooth wooden bridge. Suddenly, Matthias felt the dagger come free from the wood. He lost his grip and leaned outwards, teetering and waving his paw. Warbeak stopped him falling by pulling him back.
The dagger went spitting down. It was a considerable time before they heard the faint clatter as it hit the abbey floor.
"Gosh!" said Matthias in an odd voice. "I thought I'd had it then. I was certain that I'd fall. Thanks for saving me, Warwick."
Gradually they edged their way along until they arrived beneath the loft door. It was too high and difficult for either of them to reach. Matthias made several attempts before he had to admit defeat. He sat upon the ridge, kicking his legs and feeling quite angry with himself. Failure stared him in the face.
"A fool, that's what I am. A little fool, climbing all this way to be beaten by an old loft door."
The sparrow tapped him with her claw.
Why not Matthias cut Warbeak free? Then fly with sparrow wings and open little worm door.
Matthias looked blank. Beg pardon? Warbeak explained again.
You no listen. Warbeak say, cut wings free, fly up and open door.
"Give me your sparrow's word that you won't fly off."
Yes, good. Give sparrow word. Promise no escape.
"Swear by your mother's egg."
By mother's egg, Warbeak swear.
Matthias undid the twine that pinioned the sparrow's wings, and Warbeak flapped her wings experimentally.
Long time no fly. Me good, you see.
The young sparrow launched herself off the ridge. She went into a series of zooming circles and performed a few acrobatic turns for her companion's benefit. Matthias grinned. "Righto, I'm impressed. Now get back here, you little show-off, and open this door." Warbeak sped back, hovering level with the loft door as she set her claws into the latch.
Watch out! Door open, full of mouse.
The young mouse backed away as the sparrow released the door. It banged down hard, flapping on its hinges. This time Matthias was aware that there would be another shower of falling dust when the door opened downwards. Wisely he had edged sufficiently along the ridge to avoid both. With Warbeak flying behind him as a backup in case he fell, Matthias used the open door as a ladder. He was soon up through the ceiling opening. Though the inside was dull and gloomy, he could see that they were in a long, trench-like defile, one side of which was a fairly straight wall, while the other side was a high curving slope, the reverse side of the arched wooden ceiling. Matthias called Warbeak to him. He undid the collar and laid from the sparrow's neck and packed them away in the haversack. He patted his flying friend.
"Warbeak, I can no longer keep you collared. You're a free sparrow, and a very good friend."
The young sparrow blinked her fierce little eyes.
Matthias, my mouse friend, I no leave. Stay with you.
Together they spent several minutes searching the high ceiling above. Warbeak, having the advantage of flight, was first to find the vital trapdoor that they had guessed must exist. It was not a hard climb for Matthias, merely an excited and rather undignified scramble up the curving wooden roof back. This time they found the door open inwards. It was really heavy. The two companions strained together until it creaked loudly and opened. Matthias scrambled through, followed by Warbeak. They found themselves completely surrounded by sparrows. As the door slammed shut behind them, the birds argued and clattered around as they sprang upon Matthias, pinning him to the lid of the door with many claws. He was unable to move a single whisker. As quickly as it had started, the noise ceased. The flock of birds parted. Matthias found himself staring straight into the bold, aggressive face of a big, strong-looking male sparrow. The bird glared at him with a crazy light in his bright, mad eyes.
"Mouseworm, you are my prisoner. This court of Sparta. Me, King Bull Sparta."
That we will end for tonight. But we will be back tomorrow on our fun little journey through Redwall. I hope you have a lovely night, y'all. I'll see y'all next time.